Listen, man. In today's final stand video, I'm going to be going over every stat real quick and telling you which stats are actually worth the investment in. One thing I will say about this game is if you do decide to invest into a stat, you're going to be going all in into that one specific stat. I'm not really a true believer into putting a little bit of this and a little bit of that into a certain stat, because there are certain stats sweet spots in this game, but the thing is you get to those sweet spots with your forms alone. So for example, I think speed is something that you don't have to invest into, but having good overall speed is always going to be great for you. It's just that once you get to your end game form, you can get up to 200 speed in your form, and 200 speed is really all you need. That's like the sweet spot for it. I know in my last videos, I told y'all to go speed, but it's really not a necessity anymore. So until somebody proves me wrong with like a 600 speed build just dominating, I think the speed stat is something you don't have to put any points into. Just let your forms carry your overall speed, and then obviously you still have stuff like the speed capsule 2 giving you 25 speed. Trying to hit 275,000 subscribers before this month ends, so please subscribe to the channel if you are new. I am daily uploading final stand. Liking this video will also help me out a lot. Moving on to health max, you're definitely not going to be seeing health max in a very long time until people start getting to like level 300. Health max is one of those stats that you can't even notice until you get like around 500 health max. Okay, I absorbed an evil Namekian, and you know those people are tanky. Those people had like 700 health max. So unless Snake buffs the stat again, because he's buffed it twice now and it's still useless, I think health max is going to be useful in the future though, once the level cap gets raised higher and you're able to actually dump all your stats into health max. This is definitely more of like a PvP stat though, because if you're out here killing mobs, why do you need to be the tankiest guy in the world, right? Unless you have like a very niche build and you're trying to have fun with your friends. Just know that health max is still going to be useless until you can actually pump in at least like 500 points into it. Next up, we have key max. Now, as you can see, this human build that I have is going to be a strictly PvP build. Key max is probably the best stat for PvP. In PvP, you're constantly getting combos. So if you have a lot of points into key max, you're able to use your evasives more, right? Key max is also good for sustain too. You know, key blasts are really strong in PvP to stun lock people, but the thing is, it does take key to use. If you have more key max, that's not really a problem. Obviously, you're able to spam more moves too. If you can stay in form longer than your opponent in PvP too, you'll be able to just one-shot them once they are out of form. And then for the general player, like if you don't care about PvP, I would say get at least 100 points into key max. Now, like I said, again, once everybody is like level 200, unless you are a Saiyan, that's already going to be 100 into key max already without spending a point into it. So you really don't have to spend a point into key max. If you don't want to wait until level 200 is the new cap, then I would say, you know, just sprinkle in some points, right? Because key max is something that you can notice earlier on, and it's something that you can notice later on too. Moving on to key damage and melee damage. These go hand in hand with each other. You know, people will always tell me, what's better right now, melee damage or key damage? Well, honestly, I think it depends on your playstyle. I will say right now, the moves in the shop are equal to each other. You could actually make the argument that key attacks might be better right now just because they have more accessible moves, because with melee, right, you can't get Punisher Drive right now. This is a really good melee move that's unlocked at level 180. The level cap is 155 right now. Drop kick is also another super good melee move that you can't get. But at the same time though, the reason why I think they are 1-2-1 right now is because the boss drops, okay? When you get the drops from the world boss provides you really good melee attacks, and then you also get a super good key attack in I-beam. But I think the other key attacks from the world boss are actually pretty trash. But I will say, like, all of the melee attacks from the world boss though, super good. If you do decide to invest all of your points into melee damage, you got to have the exclusive world boss melee moves. Anyways, whether you go key damage or melee damage, this is definitely one of those stats where I say you need to dump all your points into it. If you dump all your damage into a damage stat in PvP, you can just shred through your opponent so quick. All it takes is you landing one hit to stun lock them, and then you just go into crazy burst damage. And even if you aren't a PvP player, obviously if you are fighting mobs or you're just grinding bosses, you know, having more key damage is better because your beams will do more damage. I will definitely say for sure right now, when it comes to fighting mobs, especially like the bosses, key damage is king. because people just spam beams against the bosses. Melee damage is fun for sure, but like, why would you want to be in close quarters with a boss when they can just one-shot you, right? You would literally need like 1,000 melee damage so that you can actually do damage to the boss before they even hit you. But with key damage, you can get away with like having, you know, a lower stat, and then you can still spam your beams and run away. So for mob killing specifically, I would say key damage is better than melee damage. But for PvP use, you could go either or. All right, key resistance and melee resistance. I will say these things do scale harder than health max. I'm not really too sure about trying to split your key resistance and melee resistance, right? So if you dump all your stats into key resistance, no key user is doing damage to you. But if you dump all your stats into melee resistance, no melee user is doing damage to you. Theoretically speaking, once you do hit like level 300, right, you could put 150 into both stats, and then also, you know, have the free stats on top of that, and then you also have your form. So you're really looking at like 700 key resistance and melee resistance. Assuming like the endgame stats give you even like 250 stats in each category, you're looking at a free 250 resistance in both stats, right? On top of like the 150 free stats that you get, and then if you invest 150 into each category, that'd be like 500 resistance in each category. Now, the question really is 500 resistance that much tankier than just not investing into resistance at all and just letting your forms carry you? Because like if you don't invest points, you're looking at 350 resistance. Like, what's really the difference between 350 resistance and 500 resistance? Because I know for sure having 500 key max is way better than 350 key max. 500 melee damage is definitely better than 350 melee damage, and that goes for key damage too, right? Somebody's gonna have to test the waters out and see how good the resistance stats are, but if we're just basing it off the old game, y'all, I'm telling you right now, the difference between 350 resistance and 500 is probably not even noticeable. You're probably tankier by like 2 hits. We've already went over the speed stat. Let me go into the main menu real quick now. Okay, moving on, when it comes to picking your race, this is really important when you're trying to formulate a build, okay? So depending on the race that you pick, you want to make sure you know how much stat boost that the forms give for that specific race. I made an in-depth video showing off all the race passives in this game, so watch that video. They don't include every single passive in these descriptions because for Frieza specifically, you definitely get better key max scaling and more key damage. So if you're looking to go a full key damage build, Frieza is definitely the wave. And then for the alien race specifically, they don't go through every passive, so I recommend watching my video on it. I will say though, a really good build that I want to go in the future is going to be the Pecan race, because they get better key max. So I really want to test the waters on a key max build on Pecan. As far as the other races go, man, I mean, I don't really think there's like a certain race that you want to go if you want to go all melee. Like if you really want to get technical with it, human's probably the best for melee damage, because if you go into Kaioken, man, that just does so much damage. You know, Mystic Form also gives you a lot of stat boost with no key drain. Build diversity for the most part is just dependent on what moveset the user has, what their passives can do, and what their form passives can do. I will say though, a fully invested key max Jiren is pretty nasty right now. I was downplaying Jiren. This race is actually broken. When you master emotion and put everything into key max, you have a second health bar. If you don't know what emotion does, it basically makes it so that when you run out of health, your key bar becomes your health. So if you go max key max, you have a second health bar on top of mastering emotion, not draining your key. And then look, you get the increased stats while you're at low health too. You're going to max out your passive by the time you get to your second health bar. I'm just gonna say it in this video, I'm putting y'all onto some game. This might get nerfed in the future, but just know that I'm not gonna advocate for it to get nerfed. It's just going to be at the end of this video as a little secret for anybody who's stuck to the end. This race is nasty. The only thing is you need to master the form. This race is trash if you don't master emotion. Anyways, y'all, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. Have a great day.
All I gotta do is put my mind to this shit. Goddamn. Cancel out my ex, I put a line through that bitch. I like all my S's with 2 lines through them shits.